大家好，我是塔哥，欢迎来到塔哥密谈录。今天我们要访谈前加拿大国防部长保罗·赫勒。保罗·赫勒，加拿大工程师、政治家、作家和评论员，他是任职时间最长的加拿大枢密院成员，曾担任加拿大国防部长与加拿大交通部长。保罗·赫勒认为外星人已造访地球多年。他表示，当外星人看到我们升起蘑菇云的时候，就非常担心人类的核武器会影响到宇宙的整体平衡。保罗·赫勒认为，有大量的证据表明，至少有超过80种外星种族在我们地球上活动，大多数外星人都是亲切、先进和有爱的。这些外星人知道如何更环保，并且可以教会我们更好的生活方式，虽然他们正等待着我们的同意。保罗·赫勒可以说是 UFO 外星人信息披露史上身份最大、知名度最高的一个人物，并屡次被各国官方媒体报道。接下来我们看一段来自中国官方媒体对他的报道片段。
加拿大的前国防部长保罗·赫勒，他在接受电视采访的时候公开地表示说，外星人真实存在，而且可能就在我们身边。这可真算得上是到目前为止最有分量的关于外星人存在的证人证言了。
They come from various places. They've been, as a matter of fact, they've been visiting our planet for thousands of years.
保罗·赫勒现年91岁，加拿大前国防部长。上世纪60、70年代，赫勒曾担任加拿大防长，服务过2届政府，是加拿大枢密院在任时间最长的官员。不久前，在接受今日俄罗斯电视台采访时，他的外星人存在说引发热议。这已经不是赫勒第一次发表外星人存在论。
1961, there were about 50 UFOs in formation, flying south from Russia to across Europe, and the Supreme Allied Commander was very concerned and about ready to press the panic button when they turned around and went back over the North Pole.
2005年9月，赫勒在多伦多大学演讲时说，天空出现 UFO 就像飞机掠过头顶上方一样寻常。上世纪60年代，赫勒负责组建加拿大武装部队。他说，国防部长的职务使他有机会接触大量关于 UFO 的报告文件以及机密档案。
About 80%, about 8 out of 10, were not real, but there were 15 or 20% for which there was no explanation, and they were the genuine unidentified flying objects.
本次访谈由我们团队通过网络视频的形式，我们非常荣幸能够对话这位加拿大前国防部长。他披露的内容都是极为重要的信息，涉及到 UFO 外星人、保密协议、银河联盟、全面披露、DS、比特币与金融体系以及外星科技等等等等。如果你们想看到更多的重磅访谈，请务必一键3连支持塔哥。好了，话不多说，来吧，上干货。
So, Paul, would you like to introduce yourself to the Chinese audience? Because we all know you are very famous in China now. So we are interested to know, when did you go into the politics? And then when would be your turning point to decide to go public in terms of disclosing the ETs? Thank you.
Well, I was first elected to the House of Commons in 1949, which was a lifetime ago. And I was only 25 years old.
Okay.
And, I was in the House of Commons for a long while.
Yeah.
I was a member of 3 different governments, government of Louis Saint Laurent, and then Lester B. Pearson, and then Pierre Trudeau. And I left the House of Commons in 1974.
Yeah.
And I didn't really go public on the UFO question until 2005. And a young man.
Okay. If you don't mind, I might disturb you a little while because I need to translate into Chinese. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. You just tell me when to start.
Yeah, thank you. 所以这个Paul 先生就是Hellyer 先生呢，他现在就是他已经是退休的前加拿大国防部部长。那么他其实就是前面介绍了他自己，在1949年的时候，他已经开始从政了，并且已经从政了好几十年了。在这段时间内呢，他已经为3个不同的政府政权已经服务过了。那个在2005年的时候是他人生的一个转折点，他决定就是关于外星人这个事件，他决定就是做一个披露活动。对 ，Thank you，Yep。
The reason was a young man from Ottawa, who speaks both French and English, started sending me information. I told him I was too busy to read it, but he says, just leave it and look at it when you can, which I did. And he sent me he sent me a book called The Day After Roswell.
Yeah.
And it was from reading that about a year after he sent it that I decided to go public because I knew it was the truth.
Wow, that's impressive. That's your turning point. Thank you. 所以那个保罗先生讲，在2005年的时候呢，这个时候有一个加拿大有个地方叫做 Ottawa， 那个地方呢有个年轻的男孩从这个地方来，经常和保罗先生联系。那么他就跟他经常讲一些外星人啊揭露事件。然后那个时候呢，保罗先生是非常工作繁忙的，和他说关于你发给我的这些材料呢，我现在还没有空看。所以这个年轻人说好的，那等您有空了呢，请看一下。之后他的人生的一个转折点发生在当这个年轻人给他发了一本书，给他寄了一本书，这本书的名字就叫做在罗斯威尔事件发生之后，就是这个书的书名叫罗斯威尔事件发生之后，就这么一本书。保罗先生呢读了这本书之后，对他是非常的震撼，所以他内心深处知道这个事情是真实存在的，所以那个时候他决定就是参与这个外星人揭露事件。Yes please. Yes please. 好 ，Yeah, you can proceed. Thank you.
From there, I started getting information from all over the world. People sent me documents. Some of them classified, some not. And people started sending me books. I read them all. And then I started getting briefed by famous ufologists like Dr. Greer. And Stephen Greer, he gave me a 3-hour briefing on the waterfront in Toronto, the first of my many long briefings.
OK， 那么在这段时间呢，就是他就决定就是参加这个外星人披露事件。那么之后呢，就是有全球世界各地有很多那个朋友都给他发那一些关于外星人的信息，还有飞碟的信息。这些信息包括有一些是加密的信息，有一些不是机密的信息。包括给他寄了很多这方面的书。那么之后呢，他又认识了我们现在大家都知道的那个比较有名的叫做 Stephen Greer， 就是史蒂芬·圭尔先生。那么他那个时候呢就碰到了保罗先生，并且给保罗先生做了一个长达3小时的一个关于外星人揭露这个项目的一个报告，还有外星人是否存在这么一个报告。Yes, finished. Thank you.
And then I met a lot of interesting people, including Edgar Mitchell.
Edgar Mitchell, okay. Yeah.
Edgar, who was an Apollo astronaut.
Yeah.
And he came to our place for dinner, and we had a nice discussion about his beliefs and so on. And we became good friends and stayed good friends until he died a few months ago.
Yeah, I actually sort of like a member of the Free organization, which he actually founded. You probably heard about the Free organization, and the chairman right now is Ray Hernandez. He sort of is an old friend of Dr. Edgar Mitchell as well. What a small world! So yeah, it's like a site.
Oh, he was a.
不好意思 ，Yeah，
a great man.
Yeah, he's a great man. I agree. 那么之后呢，就是保罗先生就碰到了当时第6位登陆月球的宇航员，叫做艾德加米切尔先生。这个我就前面跟他说了一下，我说这个先生他创立的一个机构，现在我还认识他那个主席，我就说这个世界比较小，绕了一圈大家都认识。然后他说他碰到了这个米歇尔先生，就是个博士呢，他因为以前是退休的一个宇航员，就关于外星人是否存在的问题，他们就聊得很热忱。然后当时呢是由保罗先生有请他到他家来吃晚饭时候，他们就这个问题呢继续深入探讨了一下。然后那个保罗先生认为那个米歇尔先生是一个很不错的一个人。Yes, finished. Yeah.
Someone else that I met was Shirley MacLaine, the movie star, and she came to Toronto and she wanted to meet me.
Yeah.
So we went out for dinner, and she told me about a lot of things having to do with UFOs. She had spent a lot of time studying, and she had met Billy Meyer, for example, and visited him.
Really,
and
Billy Meyer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had a wonderful discussion.
Okay, thank you. 然后保罗先生呢又碰到了一位就是国际上非常有名的电影明星，叫做米歇尔·米克林，这个中文我就不知道对应是什么，就是叫做那个米歇尔·米克林。那这位女士呢也是一个这方面的一个研究者，作为那个外星人啊飞碟的研究者，然后他就这个关于外星人揭秘这个事情，他和保罗先生也聊得很投机。然后米歇尔呢也和保罗先生说，他之前呢也见过我们中国现在也很有名的，就是知道那个比利迈尔，就是跟那个毛素星人接触的那个人。然后就是说到了外星人是否存在的这个事情。Yes.
So I met a lot of people in the ufology business, and I learned a lot of things from them. And for example, with Edgar Mitchell at our place, he said, "How many species of extraterrestrials do you think there are?" And I said somewhere between 2 and 12. And he said, "Yes, that's what I think. But as we now know, there are many, many more than that." And governments, at least the United States government, and probably the Chinese government too, have identified, I don't know how many, at least 70 different species. And I think there are more coming all the time, which is logical because more people are learning what it takes to do space travel.
I see. So did you just mention about the Chinese government has identified more than 70 different ET races?
No, I didn't say that. I said they may have.
They may have.
Yes, I don't know about what they have. I'm pretty sure of what the U.S. government has.
Okay, all right. 那么他就提到那个前面我们说的艾德加米切尔博士，就是前登月的第6个人。然后当时在吃饭的时候，就跟那个保罗先生聊天，聊到这个事情，所以艾德加先生就问到他，他说：“你认为保罗你认为这个宇宙当中有多少外星人？”那个保罗先生想了想，就说：“我估计大概是2个到12个吧，不同的种族。”然后那个艾德加先生就说我之前也是这么认为的，但是后来事实证实，就是真的是有就是成千上万，就是有非常非常多的外星人，不同的种族。那么据他所知，就是在美国就是说已经证明了至少能够确认的，就至少有超过70种不同的外星人种族了。
I have learned so much over the years. For example, 50 UFOs flew over Central Europe in the 1960s. The commander of NATO was concerned and about ready to panic. They turned around and went back over the North Pole. As a result, he commissioned a study. It took 3 years, and decided that without any question, at least 4 different species had been visiting planet Earth for thousands of years.
All right, so just let me repeat again. So in 1960, there's like more than 50 UFOs flew across Central Europe that sort of alerted the local government. And then they identified that at least 4 different species that has involved in human revolution for more than thousands of years. Is that correct?
Well, the commander of NATO.
Commander of NATO, yeah.
Ordered a study, and the study took 3 years, and it concluded that at least 4 species had been visiting Earth, the planet Earth, for thousands of years.
Okay, thank you. 那么保罗先生前面讲呢，就是说在1960年的时候，那么就是他们看到有超过50多个，基本上那个飞碟就是经过那个欧洲中欧的这一块地方，然后呢，这个时候是对那个 NATO 就是应该怎么翻译，就是说是美国派过去的欧盟的一个军事，这个我们还需要看一下 NATO 这个翻译具体的一个翻译，就是一个军事长，他然后就看到这个事情，当时是很震撼，所以他们后来花了有3年的时间来是做这方面的研究，到底是不是有外星人？最后他们得到的研究结果呢，就是说至少有4种不同的外星人，对于我们地球人类的这个那个文明影响有超过上千年了。你们有什么要补充的吗？
我有这样一个问题，就保罗先生呢说有这么多种外星人与我们接触，并且观察我们好久了。我看媒体上有说有来自什么金星、火星的外星人，但是呢，金星、火星的这种就是自然生态环境，它并不支持我们能熟知的这种生命的生存，有点不可思议。这个保罗能解释一下吗？
好，we got a question from Mr. Liu. So Mr. Liu just want to know, in terms of the alien races, some people even noticed that some of the races actually they came from Venus, within our solar system, from Venus and Mars. So some people just found it scientifically whether it's possible or not to have a highly intelligent beings living on Venus or even on Mars. What's your view on that?
My view is that there have been and are intelligent beings, sentient beings, excuse me, in our solar system, and so we may be related to some of them. I don't know, because they look like us. They're very similar in looks, and so they look different than some of the species we know, such as the Greys and the reptilians, for example. And yes, I'm sure that there are sentient beings living there. They have come to Earth on occasion, and if you want to talk about that for a minute, then I'll talk about one specific case of a Venusian who came to the United States.
OK， 他说根据他的理解，就是在金星和火星上的确是拥有高级存有的。那么这些高级存有或许他说虽然我不能够绝对的确信，但是我认为我们可以合理的去这么认为，就是说的确这些外星人是存在的，在金星和火星上，并且或许他们多多少少和我们人类是有一些关联的。那么比如说还有一些外星人在我们这个太阳系里边，还包括比如说有长得像那个小灰人类型的，还有蜥蜴人类型的，像类似于这种类型的。那么下面呢，我想跟你们讲一个比较一个具体的一个事件，是关于一个金星人来到了美国访问的这么一件事情。Yes, please, Paul. Thank you.
Yes, many years ago, back in the Eisenhower era, there was a Venusian came to Washington. His name was Valiant Thor.
Valiant? Okay.
Valiant, V-A-L-I-A-N-T, Valiant Thor, T-H-O-R.
Yep.
And he actually lived in the Pentagon for 4 years.
Really?
And he gave us an offer to have a much better life, to get rid of most of our illnesses, to have better food, to have a lot of good things if we would give up our atomic weapons. And there were some politicians who wanted to do that, but there were some chiefs of staff who did not want to, and so they carried the day, and we missed the opportunity.
Oh, okay. When you say we missed the opportunity, I was wondering why can't we just keep negotiating with the Venetian to help us? So you mean that the time of negotiation is finished?
Well, that time was. He went home after 4 years.
Oh, what a shame.
So
All right.
the offer was withdrawn temporarily, at least. It may be open again soon. I don't know.
OK, thank you. 那么他就是想跟大家分享一件这个事情，就是说在艾森豪威尔的那个年代，那么当时呢是有一个金星人来到了那个美国，这个金星人的名字叫做 Valiant Thor， 大概就是这么一个名字。这个金星人呢，他来到了这个地球，然后美国，并且在美国的五角大楼住了至少有4年。在他在这个任职期间，在美国这个五角楼住的这个4年当中呢，他就是也提议了很多关于如何就是说提高人的那个身体健康，还有就是如何吃到更加就是说更加健康的食物，可以改善人的体质，并且他的要求是说那个人类必须放弃那个核武器。这是一个作为一个谈判条件，但很遗憾的是，当时虽说有一些政治家是认为这是个好办法，应该和他们就是定这么一个协议的，但是还有一些政治家是持反对意见的，他们还是想拥有武器。那么基于这个理由，那么4年之后呢，那么这个金星人的访问就结束了，他后来就是回去了。那么目前来看，这个起义就是暂时结束，对，所以就是没有得到一个很大的一个成果，是这么一个情况。你们有什么问题吗？
我有一个问题，就是关于这个金星人他这个在五角大楼工作的问题。这个金星人他到五角大楼去工作的话，是不是就是为了就是促进我们这个地球与外星人第一次接触而做的一个准备？
So could we say that the reason for that Venetian come to us, especially live in Pentagon for 4 years, is that sort of like a preparation for the first contact between ETs and the humans?
I don't think that was the first contact.
Like a preparation, like a prerequisite, sort of like a preparation stage for what would be lead to the next stage.
I don't know that there was any connection.
Okay,
someone is writing a book about it now, and it should be published soon.
Thank you. Hi, Paul, thank you. I've got my personal question. I'm wondering why aliens always in contact with the U.S. government rather than making a deal with the Chinese or Russians or even Japan, like India, focus on other major governments. But seems like all the agreements made between ET and the U.S. are more binding compared with the sort of arrangement with other major governments. I just can't understand why is that.
Well, I don't know for sure to what extent is true. There's been a lot of contact between the Russian government and ETs, and but somehow there's an international agreement which is observed by many governments, including Canada, that they don't talk about it. They don't admit that this happened. They won't admit that the ETs are real. They just don't want the people to know what's going on. And I think that's the problem. So the reason I talk mostly about the U.S. is because that's where my sources are. And I can get reasonably accurate information from the United States, whereas it's much more difficult to get it from other places.
I see. All right. So what you're saying is the reason for other major governments don't want to make a move for the ET disclosure is because they all signed some kind of like a binding international agreement or treaty, sort of to prevent any country to come forward to disclose the existence of ET. Could I phrase like that?
I think that is very close. I know that Canada was alleged to have signed one, and I know that our people don't talk, and I understand that all governments were advised of what was going on in those days, and that there must have been an agreement not to talk about it, or they would have talked about it.
Yeah, I agree. 那么他前面就是主持人的这个问题，他的回答是，他认为是有，就是说是和其他的那个国家是有联系的。那么包括和中国和俄罗斯，尤其是俄罗斯人和外星人，他们是有个比较经常并且密切的接触。然后他说，之所以很多的大国家，这后面是我的问题，然后我的问题就问他，为什么这些外星人经常和美国人做那些契约和合同，好像不是经常与其他的国家就是有这么一个合约和接触。那么他的回答说，我不认为我认同你的看法。他说，我认为其实外星人和许多其他的国家政权都是有联系的，其中包括俄罗斯。他们说就是和俄罗斯也走得比较近，那么也比较亲密，而且很频繁也包括中国还有其他的国家。那么他认为，之所以这些全球所有的一个国家都没有一个肯站出来那个做一个第一个披露活动，他认为很可能是所有不是说很可能，据他所知是这些所有的国家，包括加拿大。他说，据我所知，他说我只能够说加拿大的话，那么他是知道加拿大当时是被邀请来签这一份国际协议。这个国际协议就是要求就告诉大家，就是外星人是的确是存在的，所以全球所有的政府已经知道了这么一个事实但是知道之后呢，他们会要求签这个国际合约，就是说哪怕你们现在知道了，但都不可以做一个披露活动，就是说不可能在那个公开场合承认有这么一件事情。所以他认为，保罗就认为这个事情是对他的一个工作是有很大的一个阻碍因为这个事情呢，所以他得到的那些内幕消息就是说也是比较困难，因为政府层面上没有一个政府愿意公开承认这件事情。那么目前来看，他所得到的信息都是从美国那方得到的会比较多，美国那个内幕。对。Thank you. So I just basically translated your comments to the audience and the speakers. So we are very stunned by these what you call the proposed international agreement between all the countries on Earth. Inform them the existence of ET, but mind them not to disclose this matter, which is quite surprising for us.
Well, there must be some kind of an agreement because there's a lot of information out there, and the public aren't getting it. And one of the reasons there are people like me is because I think the public should know much more about what's going on. And so I have written 2 books. Light at the End of the Tunnel was the first one. And then recently, The Money Mafia. A World of Crisis, to try and let people know what is going on.
Oh, wow, that's great. 那么 Paul 他就是说，他认为那我就前面说了一下，我说咱们就是听到您说的这个事情比较震惊了他说是那我认为这个总是可能会有这么一个国际合约，就是限制所有政府就是作为一个这方面内容的一个披露。那么他说，那么对我的工作呢是有点影响。那么他认为无论如何，这个人民群众是应该有知情权的。那么他就是一直在做这个披露活动。他说，比如说嘛，我最近写了2本书，一本书是关于Money Mafia， 就是那个怎么翻译呢？就是说关于金钱方面，就叫 Money Mafia。那个还有一本书叫做那一个在隧道的终结点，在隧道的终结点，就意思说马上见到光，差不多就是这么一个意思。对，这就是这2本书。那么他写的这2本书的目的就是想做一个披露工作，想让他知道关于这个金融体系， 还有就是到底有没有外星人这么一个事实？没有问题吧？
我有一个问题，他刚才说了这个披露这个金融体系，我的问题就是大卫洛克菲勒他去世了，他的死亡是否可以看作是秘密政府在全球的影响和扩张受到了制约？那秘密政府是否是唯一的一支力量，控制并且阻拦了我们人类去了解 UFO 和外星人的真相？
好。We've got a question for you. What do you think? Because this year March, the David Rockefeller just passed away, which is can we say that he's a leader of the secret government or cabal? So since he's passed away, can we say that the power of secret government has been significantly reduced? What's your view on that? In terms of David Rockefeller passed away.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. He was unquestionably one of the most powerful leaders of the cabal, and he had a tremendous influence. But the cabal is still intact. It is still, in my opinion, a threat to the people of the United States and to the world. And I think that I keep hoping that somebody will try to do something to reduce, in some small way at least, its overwhelming power.
Yeah, OK. 那么他说很遗憾的是，我对此bless you， 我对此有不同的看法。我认为虽说我同意你的观点，就是戴维德·洛克菲勒，他虽说他在世的时候他现在去世了，但是他在位的时候的确是对那个阴谋集团有一个非常大的一个掌控权和影响力，非常大的影响力。那么虽说他已经去世了，但事实上来说，哪怕现在就看美国这个地方吧，那个阴谋集团还有那个势力依旧是有一个就是根很深就是说还是很有影响力。那么他是非常急切的希望如果能够发生一些事，或者就是有个什么运动能够就是说对于这么一个阴谋集团或者一个秘密政府有一个就是削弱他们的这种能力或者影响力，负面影响力会比较好。那么这是他的看法。So Paul, what do you think? Do you think that the secret government would say, let's say, is the only sort of obstacles for this disclosure program, or do you think is any other sort of organization or cabal involvement in this as well? I mean, in terms of disclosure program.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the first part of your question.
Let me say that again. Sorry. Our question is, do you think the secret government is the only problem for disclosing ET existence on Earth? Or do you think is there any other power behind the scenes that influence this decision?
I don't really know the answer to that question. I know that they're the number one power for keeping things secret. Probably because they've got more to lose than anyone else. The cabal is a very powerful organization. It is headed by the banking cartel, the international banking cartel at the top, and then the oil cartel, which wants to keep on using oil, even if it means the planet going up in flames. And then the transnational corporations that have so very much power. And then, of course, large portions of the intelligence organizations, including the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the MI6 in England, and the Mossad in Israel, and then a huge chunk of the U.S. military. Now, that's a powerful organization or group or whatever it is. And so they have a great stake in keeping things quiet because they have spent trillions of dollars of the United States taxpayers' money back engineering ET technology and have never told the people about it.
他说就是说他不认为那个他这么说，他说他也这个问题他不能够回答，因为他也不知道是不是这个秘密集团和阴谋集团是唯一的一支影响这个披露活动，包括外星人存在这个事实的一个唯一的或者唯一的一两个的一个组织或者一个力量，那么或许还有别的。那他说比如说这个虽说他不能够绝对的确信，但是他说比如说还有一些人呢是不希望这么一个事实被披露出去的，因为会影响到他们。他说举个例子吧，像那个阴谋集团里边扮演一个最主要的角色的就是像国际的像那些银行财团，他们是非常不希望这件事情发生的，银行财团这个是比较影响会对他们比较大的。还有就是那个石油派，那么就是管石油的这一批人，他们还是希望看到石油能够继续被用，所以在这一点上他们还是不希望有这么一个披露工作。其他的具有影响力的那个组织也包括比如说跨国际的那些大财团那些大公司，还有就是世界各地的那一些情报局，那大家都是知道，像那个美国中央情报局啦、联邦调查局啦，还有那个穆萨德，像那些就是秘密的那些情报机构，包括还有美国的这些军方的一些秘密机构。那么他们每一年呢会花很多那个纳税人上兆亿的钱，就用于那些研究外星人科技，并且做那些逆向工程的研究，那么花费是非常巨大的，而且都是对他们自己有利。对。
好，保罗先生呢，我们都知道就是说民众是相信主流媒体的，他们呢也希望眼见为实。那我了解一下，就是说我们地球要展开这种全球媒体的同步大揭露，需要多久呢？然后需要什么前置条件呢？我说这个大揭露就是指这个揭露秘密政府、释放自由能源这种全面的揭露。
Okay, thank you. So, Paul, as you know that so many people actually really want to see a full disclosure of the event. So when we talk about the event, we're referring to, arrest of Kabal's or a full disclosure of the alien existence on Earth. So, if you could give a time frame and just estimate time frame, what's your view on that? When do you think this would take place? And is there any prerequisite or precondition that needs to happen would lead to those events?
I really don't know, because people have been predicting full disclosure for years. Yes. They're still predicting it. It's like, the finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You keep thinking it's going to happen, but it never does. So I really don't know, but I know that there are many more whistleblowers now.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, they're writing some books and they're putting out YouTubes and so on. But the mainline media is there to control people's minds, not to inform them as to what is going on. And so, take Stephen Greer's latest book, for example, Unacknowledged, a tremendous amount of new information, and some of it very, very important. And there's been no mention of it in the major papers or the major news broadcasting organizations. So even if there are hundreds of YouTubes and hundreds of books, including one that I'm starting to write now that I hope to publish next year, how many people will read them? I don't know.
Yeah, I see. 那么他给的答案就是说，他真的不知道该怎么回答这个问题，因为他说关于这个彻底揭露这个事情呢，每一天都有人就是开始做那个就是说一个预测可能是明年，可能是后年，可能是什么时候。但是事实上你也可以看到，每一次说的这个日子都已经过去了，但实际上都没发生。那么这个事情就一直是在猜测当中，到底什么时候我们可以看到有这个全面披露这个事情呢？他说其实坦诚的来说我也不知道。 但是好消息呢，就是往正面来看是说，目前来看越来越多的那一个就是内幕者出来了，站出来愿意披露这个事情，就对这个披露工作会有很大的一个贡献。他们同时呢也出了很多的书，包括在 YouTube， 就是在国内就相当于那种什么土豆网那种的，反正就是做一些披露啊、视频啊，就说一下自己的就是那些内幕啊情况，就是这种事情。他说这的确是有一个一个很好的一个提升吧，就是一个更加多的一个披露。但问题他是所担忧的就是主流媒体的存在，因为主流媒体的存在实际上是为了控制人的一个心智的，包括信息接收。那因为主流媒体呢，他还是不愿意披露这个大事，就是说这个外星人的存在，包括愿意对那个大事件发生做一个推波助澜的作用。那因为如此呢，那么就是给我们的工作就添了一些麻烦，就是不是那么容易。举个例子吧，他又说到那个 Stephen Greer， 他说史蒂芬 Greer 先生呢，他最近写了一本新书，那么这个新书里边呢，就是有一个非常大量的一些新信息，而且是非常好的一些比较重要的信息。但很可惜的是，他写了这么好的一本书，做了这么大的一个披露的一个贡献，可惜因为是主流媒体不愿意为他做一个推广，所以他哪怕这本书出来了，都没有几个人知道而且没有做一个很好的推广，就没办法就是在主流媒体上面做推广，所以给我们的披露工作呢又增加了一些困难是这样。
I'm sure you heard of the excuse me, Galactic Federation, and they're in. Can you hear me?
Sorry, beg your pardon. I'm sure
you have heard of the Galactic Federation.
Yeah.
They're very interested in what's going on here on Earth, but they have an agreement not to intervene. So what they've been doing is they've been working through individuals, and they will pass information to an individual in one country after another and get those individuals to make speeches and to write books and to do YouTubes and to do things like that in order to get more information out. And I think there is a hope that someday, if things get bad enough here on the planet, that they might change their policy and come and reveal themselves and let us know what the truth is and how they can help us and be on the side of what they call the light. Because most of them are more spiritual than one or two of the species that we're most familiar with, and with the cabal has been working with. So these are hopes, because we're up against spiritual problems, and most of the members of the Galactic Federation are much more spiritual than we are, Earthlings, most of us, and so we keep saying, well, will the situation get so bad that they will come and expose themselves and show us really how if you live right, you can have a wonderful life of peace and prosperity, which is what, of course, we all want.
Yeah. Okay. 他后面就接下来他就说到他说你们大概都听过那个星际联盟，我们可能在中国叫光之联盟星际联盟，就是外星人的一个联盟组织。他说他们呢跟他们是有一个政策的，政策就是他们虽说是对这个地球上发生的那些事物非常的感兴趣，但是他们的一个政策就是他们的一个政策就是不能够影响人类的适宜的发展，这是他们的一个政策。但是呢，既然这个政策就放在那里，那他们该怎么参与呢？他们就是会通过在各个国家联系一些人，通过这一些人给他们不同的就是不同的信息，让这些人出来，就是站出来 分享这方面关于外星人是否存在的这么一个披露活动，还有一些关于政府的一些，比如说阴谋集团的一些事情，所以这些人也是起到比较关键的作用。所以这就是星际联邦他们做的事情，就是说虽说不能够直接的干预，但是他们可以通过联系不同的地球人，然后通过他们来进行那个地球层面的一个干预。是这么样子的，所以那个保罗就是说，希望有一天当我们这个地球可以变得更加和谐的话，那么就是希望那个星际联盟他们可以更改一下他们这方面的政策，那么可能他们可以跟我们有一个更加直接的联系接触。那么这样的话，因为这些外星人呢，他们因为是高级存有，那么他们的意识各方面都比我们更加的高，那么可以就是帮助我们有个更好的一个提升。那还有什么问题吗？
那我提一个问题好吗？
好，
保罗先生，著名的揭露者克里古德说，他说地球联盟有很多国家参与了秘密太空计划，就是 SSP， 他们参与星际贸易。我想通过您这儿了解一下这个信息，您这儿能给予证实吗？如果有，各国政府了解和参与这个秘密太空计划的程度是什么样一个情况呢？
So Paul, we've got a question actually from our audience. They are asking, like, you might be heard about a gentleman called Corey Good. Corey Good, like he's with the David Wilcock culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have heard the name, yes, but I'm not familiar with
Okay.
the ideas enough to comment.
那我还没问了，他就马上说，他说我虽说听过这个人，但是关于他所说的那一些事情，我无法发表一些看法。
好的。
我有一个问题就是据说我们地球人类的基因当中是含有蜥蜴人或者是天龙人的基因，那么这对我们人类的进化有什么样的影响？有没有什么危害呢
？So some people just worry about Paul that, like you may know reptilian and gray and, 什么天龙族对吧？天龙族
和蜥蜴人的基因。
Okay. So people just worry that within our genetic makeup, we may have some infusion or part of a gene came from Draconian and reptilian. Some people just worry about that. Those genetic makeup may have some kind of genetic defects within us that may cause some kind of negativity in us. What's your view on those genetic makeup? Do you think it's true that part of it from reptilian and draconian? That's the first question. The second thing, do you think will causing any negativity within us?
One question at a time.
Yes.
I think that part of our brain is reptilian.
I agree.
Consequently, we have to keep fighting against that. That's the part of our body which says, well, let's fight. Let's cause trouble. Let's try and reduce the population by any means whatsoever, and so on. And that's the sort of the bad side of us. Well, then there's another side that says we have to keep that part of our brain under control. We have to say, don't push us around. Just stay quiet and stay in the background so that we can live our lives and that we can start doing positive things and working toward a better world of cooperation and spend more money on food for the children and housing for them and education for them and so on, and less money on armaments, because armaments are becoming really out of date. They are so terrible now. People can't imagine how terrible they are. We have to rule out war, or we will extinguish our whole species. And it could happen. And so we've got to work toward getting more influence on the light and getting people to say, well, it would be nicer to work together. We can all be friends, and we can all find some things in common to get together on, and that's the direction we're going to have to take if we want to save the human species.
Yeah, I agree. 所以他说关于主持的那个问题，他的回答说，他认为我们人的大脑的一部分其实也就是蜥蜴人的大脑，因为我们经常考虑到要互相的那些争斗啊、打仗啊，或者互相伤害这一类的事情。那么他说很遗憾的是，他是这么，就是说他说很遗憾的是这是个事实。那么从好的地方来说，我们也应该学会如何去掌控和控制这些情绪和那些那个动机，就是想做这么一个事情的冲动。如果我们不能够自我控制就是有互相斗争还有战争这些事情的话，那么我们这个文明也可能会马上结束。因为如果经常处于战争状态拼得你死我活，那么我们这个种族可能就不会再存在多长时间了。你们还有什么其他问题吗？
好的
，Thank you, Paul。
有这样一种观点就是说我们地球目前是处于被负面的外星人控制的星球。我想问保罗先生，您同意这个观点吗
？Thank you, Paul. What do you think? Do you think that Earth is under the negative aliens' control? Because some people believe in that Earth is under malevolent beings' control right now. So, what's your view on this?
I think it's people who are self-centered, and their gods are power and greed. And if that is what they work for, I say that they're on the wrong side of the future. We have to look for people who are on the right side of the future, and they have to be beings that are more interested in the we than in the me. And there are many.
So you think... Right. So you think the problem that happens on Earth right now is not just from the ET, but also mainly came from human self, like self-centered, ego-driven humans rather than ET control?
I think that I have more fear of the humans than I do of the ETs.
Okay. 那他的回答就是说，他就是没有直面回答你这个问题。他说，但是我们这个地球上现在碰到的种种问题，最主要是那种非常以自我为中心的人而导致的，包括还有是那一些就是非常追求那种追名逐利，非常想得到权势的那些人的影响。那么我就把这个问题带回来，那我说，所以你就不认为我们地球是属于那个被负面外星人所奴隶的一个星球？他说我并没有太多去担心外星人这个信息，就负面外星人对地球所造成的伤害。我认为我们人类本身对于我们自己地球和自己的本族人所造成的伤害和影响，要远远大于负面外星人对我们的影响。所以他的意思是说，是不是负面外星人现在努力我们，他根本他觉得这不是很重要，他认为可能是人与人之间可能的影响就更加大。
这个我还有一个问题就是外星人他拒绝与我们地球人去分享他们的高科技，是不是因为我们这个地球人意识层次还不够高，就是我们特别好战，又破坏生态环境？那外星人他们那个技术那么高明，他们就是如果不需要战争的话，他们的那些高科技是用来干什么的呢？是用来保卫自己的，还是用来做其他用途的呢？
你这里面有2个问题，那我先问第一个，因为他前面说只能一次问一个问题，这也对。So Paul, so many people want to ask, as you know, like ET, they have really high-tech things, like high technology and consciousness. What makes them doesn't want to share their technology with us?
You say what makes them not want to?
Yeah, not want to share their technology with humans.
Well, I think they've shared a lot of technology with us, and especially the ones in working with the cabal, that they have exchanged a great deal of technology, including space technology, and some weapons technology, as well as some technology which we find useful, fiber optics and and microchips and LED lights and things like this, which are very useful for us. So I think where we've been missing is sharing technology and agriculture and medicine, for example, to a much greater extent.
Yeah. 所以他回答你第一个问题，他认为他认为外星人和我们地球人已经提供给我们非常多的科技了，尤其是那些阴谋集团与阴谋集团合作的那些外星人，比如说他所提供的科技，比如说是那些武器设备那些高科技，还有一些包括那个星际的那个旅行这方面的高科技。那还有现在还是会比较有用的那些，比如说微芯片啊、追踪芯片啊这种的，还有就是那些镭射光啊这些的，但是他认为我们其实对于人的层面来说，我们其实最需要的、渴望的那些科技，比如说是在农业上面的一个提携和帮助。对于农业方面有利的外星人科技是我们非常需要的，还有就是在于那个医疗板块的一些外星设备，就是那个科技也是非常需要的。但归根结底，他认为外星人的确给我们提供了很多科技，尤其是那些阴谋集团，还有和那个负面的不说我这个可能是家庭群，就是他们所联系的外星人从他们那里得到的科技。你的第二个问题是什么？
第二个问题是说，外星人他技术就是比地球要高很多，那他们这些技术是用来干什么的呢？是用来保卫自己，还是用来向外征战？或者是用作提高他们自己本族人的这种生活水平啊什么的
？So the audience just want to ask, following that technology things, what do you think the alien want? Like, okay, so the alien do have very high technology in their own races, so do you think why do they need such high technology if they living in such a peaceful world in their own planet? Do you think it's because to improving, for self-defense reason or for their own improvement of society or life quality? What's your view on that? Just want to know. Thank you.
I don't think it's homogeneous. I think there have been wars between ETs.
Yeah.
And there will probably be more. And I think there are extraterrestrials who are on the wrong side as far as the future is concerned. So I guess the thing that worries me most is if the wrong Earthlings, the Cabal, for example, makes the wrong kind of a deal with some ETs who may have plans for us that we wouldn't want them to have. So that would be my greatest fear.
Yeah, thank you. 那么他的回答就是，他说，当然外星人也是需要，他们自己也需要科技，所以说他们活的可能在不同的星球上，原因是他们自己之间呢也会经常有战争。他们也要保护好自己，那么这是一个情况。还有就是他所担心的就是我们政府可能分不清楚应该和哪一些外星人来签署一些协议和约定，那么很可能政府在选的时候可能会和一些不是特别正向的或者说目的不是很明确的外星人签署一些合约，那么这是保罗最为担心的。
我问一个问题现在网上有广泛的传言近些年爆发性的外星人接触事件呢，就是因为我们地球要即将进入一个新的维度，很多种类的外星人呢介入了我们这个地球维度提升的进程中来。您对此有什么观点呢？我想听听您的看法。
So Paul, what do you think? Because so many people saying that the ET contact with human being has increased dramatically in the recent years. Before maybe you heard one or two incidents back in 1940 or 60, but now there's a massive reports of ET contact with human beings. So some people think the increased amount of ET contact with human is due to Earth's ascension, because ET wants to participate in Earth's ascension, human ascension process. Do you have any comment for this? Thank you.
It's a wonderfully large subject, and I don't know all the answers. I think there are unquestionably ETs that want us to go to a higher dimension and work with us toward that achieving a higher dimension. And I think there are others who just want maybe to take over our planet and not to worry about us. But there has been, as you know, quite a lot of crossbreeding. And one has to wonder, what the extent is and what the end game is, whether it's an entirely new race or what exactly is going on. And I think that's just one more of the questions that we should try and get answers to in the very near future.
他说就是这个问题利益太过于广了，而且有点抽象。那他说如果我想回答的下，我想是这么说的，就是外星人之所以和地球人最近几年有这么亲密的而且多数量的接触呢，可能出于各种各样不同的原因和目的。那么有一些可能的确是想帮助我们，那有一些可能是说要掌控我们这个地球，或者有各种各样的那些出于不同的目的，对于地球和人类有不同的影响。就是他是这么说的，就这么一回事，对。
对不起，刚才里面还有一个话题，就是说地球要进行一个维度的提升，这件事情他清楚吗？他有什么看法
？Have you heard about Earth's ascension? How much do you know about ascension? Like everybody talking about the ascension, Paul. Like we're going to ascend to fifth density or fifth dimension. Some say it's a fourth density. So there's a lot of saying, rumors flying around on the internet. So I just want to hear, like, from your knowledge, from a reliable source or whistleblower, have they commented anything on Earth's ascension and human ascension? Thank you.
I haven't the slightest idea. There are so many rumors and so many different opinions that some of them have to be wrong. Maybe some of them are right, I don't know. But I have more important things to worry about at the moment. And that is to try and do the right thing by people and to create a better world especially for the underprivileged and the children. And so that's what I'm concentrating on. Wow. A monetary system that makes sense for all the people and not just for the very richest 62 families and so on. And if there is an ascension, why, fine, but if not, fine. It's not something that's very high on my agenda.
Thank you. 那他说其实关于这个问题呢，就是网上经常有各种各样不同的说法对于这个问题，他其实这并不是他所最关心的。那么从他那里得到的信息也没有特别提到关于地球扬升这个事情。他说他的意思说他这人比较务实，他更加注重于当下我们人应该做什么事情。那他现在特别专注的比如说是照顾那一些就是说就是弱势群体，还有就是对于当今就是这个金融体系他是比较不满意，就说可能要有个整改，那么他在这方面是投入的时间和精力比较多，是这样。等一下我有几个问题想问他。
好的。
Thank you, Paul. Regarding the monetary system, myself, I'm actually quite interested in this. As you know that before we've got a Bitcoin, and so many people talking about the founder of Bitcoin, even though I don't remember that guy's name, but I believe it's a Japanese. But we don't know whether that person is created or not, because nobody see this person never get interviewed. The person seems like not even exists, so nobody know who really created Bitcoin. And could you actually tell us more about your research or your plan in terms of the your newly proposed monetary system or anything you want to comment on that? Thanks.
Well, very briefly, for the last 300 years at least, very few families have had a monopoly in creating money.
Yep.
They created all this debt, and they lend it to us, and we have to repay that debt with interest. But there's no money that really available to repay it, because it wasn't money they lent us. They didn't have any money. They just lent us credit. and then they expect us to repay in real money, and it doesn't exist. So what I'm saying is we have to have a very large infusion of government-created money to do two things. First of all, to employ the millions and millions of people who have no jobs, and to get them doing constructive work, whether it's providing more food or providing more beautiful parks or building more houses for the poor or whatever. We have to have a massive infusion of money to do that, to spend on better health care and better education.
Yeah.
And in the process, to reduce the power of the banking cartel. Because now they can lend the same money to 20 people and charge interest to each at the same time.
Wow.
And excuse me, they've been doing that for years. And that's the reason that 62 families own half of the world. Literally.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, that ratio should be reduced to 2 to 1. And this would really take away the power of the cabal to run the world.
So when you say the ratio being reduced from 2 to 1, are you referring to the interest or the credit?
That they could only use the same money to lend to twice rather than 20 times.
I see. 所以他就是说我前面就是问他关于这个金融体系的问题，然后我问到就是前段时间很红，就是到现在还是很红的，叫做 Bitcoin 比特币。那我说这个比特币虽说创始人表面上来看好像是一个叫日本人名字的一个人，但是谁都没见过这个人，他也从来不被采访或者什么，实际上这个人只是一个名字，那这个人到底是谁，有没有这个人，没有人知道，或许这个人是被虚构出来，但是真正创始成立的这个比特币的这个是到底一个怎么组织和人，谁都不知道。那么我就想问他关于这个新的金融体系比特币的看法。那他呢也没有直接说到比特币，他就提了一下他关于金融体系的看法。他说在过去的300年以内呢，就是这个世界被好几个主要的大家庭所掌控。那么这些大家庭呢，他们其实是没有钱的，那么他们就发明创造出来这个游戏。这个游戏就是他们把虚拟的这个信贷呢就租给大家，让大家用真实的钱去还。其实他们本身也不就是说没有钱，所以他就是用这种把大家一直置于那种处于欠债状态，就是需要还债的这种状态当中，所以让大家去还这个钱，那么他就会变得越来越有钱。那目前来看呢，这个地球上呢是被有62个大家族所控制。那么他们就是通过这个套利的方法，金融套利的方法自己来敛财。那么对于那种平民老百姓呢，就会变得越来越穷。那么他说，如果由我来管这个事情呢，我就会规定一笔钱如果要借出去的话，只能够借2次，而不是说一笔钱可以连续借上那么20几次。这样的话就是会造成一个就是说更高的信贷啦、利息啦等等。所以他说这个是我们政府应该做的事情。还有呢，政府是需要拥有一个非常庞大的资金，以用于基础建设，比如说给那些还没有工作的人，让他们去从事工作基础设施建设，这样既可以造福于民众，那么同时呢，那些没有工作的人他自己也有工作了也可以自己买一些比较好吃的东西和满足一些最基本的生活需求是这样。那么还有就是可以提高人民的生活质量等。你们还有问题吗？差不多就可以结束了。
就是说我们大家最关注的一个问题就是这个break big silence， 也就是说我们什么时候能够打破这种巨大的沉寂，与外星人做第一次接触？您有一个时间的预期或者有些内幕透露给我们吗？
你说就是跟外星人的第一次接触什么时候可以发生？
是的。
OK， sorry， 我觉得他这个问题好像前面回答过。
之前我好像问过的一个关于第一次接触的这个问题。
对，你马上换个问题，他马上走了。
这样吧，那咱们就向他请教一下，以后咱们在做接触这方面工作的话，他能不能给到我们一些建议？
好，可以。So Paul, thank you so much for coming. So before you leave, we just want to know, do you have any advice for our Chinese audience in terms of what can we do to do the disclosure program, like what can we do to disclose this incident or things, I mean, in terms of couple or existence of the ETs?
Just keep on what you're doing of exposing the truth a little bit at a time. And if we all do that, and if we can get more books out on a wide scale to millions of people around the world, it won't take too long.
Okay, that sounds good. 他就说那个就是你们在做的已经很不错了，就是做你现在正在做的事情。如果我们能够那个出版更多这方面的书然后多写这方面的信息，多披露更多的信息在网上，还有其他的那些文章，那么这会对那个全球的披露工作做出很大的贡献。那么他认为就是我们应该继续这么做下去，这是他给我们大家每个听众的一个意见。
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we are really grateful for joining us.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for joining us today. 谢
It's
谢
a pleasure.
谢谢保罗
Nice
先
to
生
be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
拜拜。
Bye.